With The Rise of Skywalker now literally just weeks away from its official release by Disney and Lucasfilm, a lot of fans are prepping for the release of Episode 9 and what J.J. Abrams has to offer by, of course, Disney and Lucasfilm and what it's going to do for the end of the Skywalker saga. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, we do know that Disney and Lucasfilm went through various changes and adjustments throughout the reshoots and the rewrites of this movie numerous times on end in order to get this movie down correctly for the story of Palpatine, Rey, Kylo Ren, and of course even Jedi Master Luke Skywalker and a whole lot more. After all, this movie is said to have by far the most Star Wars characters out of every single Star Wars film to date. Now, with that being said, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it all comes down to one of the big plans by Disney and Lucasfilm that is rather unfortunate, at least in my point of view, has all to do with one of the main villains that were completely cut from the movie. Now, specifically, it's described that during the reshoots of the film during the months of August, September, and October is when Disney and Lucasfilm were adjusting the second and third acts of the film by reshooting many of the scenes that were vital to the characters of Rey and Kylo Ren. It's explained that during the adjustments, Disney had to cut one of the main characters from the film that was said to also hold a very strong connection to Emperor Palpatine in the original cut. That character was said to be the Dark Acolyte portrayed by Matt Smith in the film that would play the brand new villain that would eventually be or has been possessed by the spirit of Palpatine after being killed by Darth Vader / Anakin during the events of Episode 6. The original main villain was said to have had two personalities in the film, starting off as the main villain with his own personality, to the point where Palpatine's spirit would slowly take over the character, where the main villain would pick up the mannerisms of Darth Sidious. One of the main reasons as to why Disney cut the main villain from the film had to do with the shift in storytelling during the rewrites and new approved scenes that were eventually a go by Disney and Lucasfilm, where J.J. Abrams brought Ian McDiarmid back in for brand new scenes to be back in the flesh for the entirety of the movie. Fans will recall that originally at Star Wars Celebration, when Ian McDiarmid was doing a lot of press interviews, said that Palpatine is dead, that he is certainly dead, and that what you hear in the trailer of his laughter should be taken as a small tease. This alludes to the original film where Palpatine wouldn't originally show up in the flesh for the whole entire film, but rather as a spirit controlling the main villain. One of the other reasons had to do with the choice of a brand new ending that did not match the original battle between both Rey, Kylo, and the Dark Acolyte. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, obviously, a lot of fans will take this as Disney doesn't really know exactly what they're doing with The Rise of Skywalker, and I totally understand that because of all the different directions that they have gone through with Episode 9. I'm sure that you guys actually have heard that Disney and Lucasfilm have been testing with 6 different endings for The Rise of Skywalker, which really is, pretty massive for Disney to do for a Star Wars movie. The fact that they're trying to do different versions of the ending, even Daisy Ridley confirmed this, by the way, also at Celebration, that they went through numerous endings that were somewhat similar, but had major differences at certain points in time. So, let's go over the main villain that was cut. Now, this main villain was actually said to be portrayed by Matt Smith, and was actually said to be the Dark Acolyte, who was essentially a brand new main villain in the movie that would serve as an original villain that would eventually turn more and more into Darth Sidious and his personality. And that, to me, I think it sounded a little bit more realistic in a sense than Palpatine just coming back in the flesh and the fact that he never died. I think that a lot of fans are going to have a real problem with that, and I've been seeing a lot of people having, a lot of issues with the fact that Palpatine is back in the flesh and that he never really died at the very end of Episode 6. Mind you that there are other Star Wars fans out there that love that idea as well. I, however, was always leaning toward the spiritual, sense of Palpatine, being a spirit taking over the main villain in The Rise of Skywalker, not only because it was more true to the Dark Empire comic line, but because it would have made a little bit more sense about Darth Vader, destroying Palpatine once and for all, to the point where Palpatine couldn't necessarily pose a threat unless he had a compatible host, if you will, right? And he had to wait until the Dark Acolyte showed up. The main reason as to why the Dark Acolyte, portrayed by Matt Smith, was actually cut from the movie, like I say, all had to do with various, adjustments of the third act, and how one of the endings did not fit the battle between, Rey, Kylo and the Dark Acolyte, to the point where J.J. Abrams got approved scenes by Disney and Lucasfilm of what he wanted to do originally, and that all had to do with Palpatine coming back in the flesh. Now, of course, we actually explained this just yesterday, that his survival has something to do with a wormhole that he created at the very end of Episode 6, where he escapes the Death Star 2 just in time that he just survives the fall, and literally is able to go over to the world of Exegol and fake his death for 30 plus years, which is pretty crazy by Disney and Lucasfilm in a sense. Like, what did Palpatine do on that world for 30 some years, right? So we'll have to wait and see exactly how it's going to be executed on the big screen. It's always different when you actually get to see this on the big screen, so we'll have to wait and see. But anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.